What's up, everybody? That time of the day, that time of the week, that time of the month.
Yeah, man.
You listen to the good,
The band.
the ugly, I'm Big Papa.
And I'm Jeff.
And we have a show we're excited to bring to you this week.
Yes.
Sliding down that music like we know what we're doing. Look at that.
Almost professional-like.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
All right.
How you doing, brother?
Good, man.
Man, what a whirlwind weekend this was.
Dude, how great.
We got to play Rockstar again this week.
We did. It was awesome.
I don't know, for those who haven't seen 1,100 different photos and videos
and stuff. And
so Jeff and I had the opportunity to play with Ben Morrow.
Yep.
Goose was there.
Goose, Edgar Pagan.
Edgar Pagan was there. Keyboard
Andy.
player. Andy, the keyboard player. I feel like a dick. I forgot his name. Great
Oh, my
show.
God.
Ben's wife was
Marilyn, yes.
Marilyn was phenomenal on the percussion instruments, and then she sat down on the drum kit.
Yep.
Played a song with us.
Song.
I have a great respect now for people who play the tambourine. I've never spent a whole night just doing backing vocals because I've always been up front, but I played the tambourine. I had a bruise on my hand.
Huh. I wonder how that happened.
I don't know how that could happen.
Me either.
I've never spent a whole night playing tambourine.
Well,
jeez. At first I thought, am I the guy that's going to be holding the triangle in the band and thinking I'm a fucking rock star? But no.
Look at me go.
But it was cool. I like singing the backing vocals, and Ben is a true gentleman. And,
yes. Can't say enough.
Such a great.
Yeah, cannot say enough about it.
2 shows.
Yeah.
Can't wait. He's coming back. We're gonna. I guess we're gonna be regular fixtures.
I guess we're part of the family, from what
Ben
I
Morrow
understand.
and friends. Yeah, I'm waiting for Dad to invite us over some sauce and
I know.
some pasta.
Yeah,
bring him some bread I know he's listening because he listens to our show.
Yes, he does.
So. Anyways, great weekend. So for those that came out to see us, thank you so much, Sharkies. Thanks for having us, and
thank my family for coming out. They were
it was awesome. Great. Everybody came out. It was awesome. And
I got to tell you,
the brewery.
I got to tell you, dude.
What?
I will say this right up front. You did a hell of a job.
I did. Thank you. Jeff, you crushed it.
Thanks, man.
The guitar was killer, man. It was the first time I sat back and was like, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Right.
How long have we been in a band together?
I know, right?
10 years?
10 years, something like
Never
that.
really thought you were that good until this weekend.
Oh, well.
Hey. On to the next one. On to the next local musician that we're going to jam with someday. Today we have a bit of an icon, Syracuse icon.
Yeah.
We have George Rossi.
Yep.
From Little Georgie and the Shuffling Hungarians. And we definitely have to ask him
where that came from.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's bring him in the studio. George, jump on.
Join in, buddy.
Okay. Here comes the sideways lateral maneuver.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, that's George's hand.
Yes, take the fingerprint off your screen in case you want to.
Hi, fellas. How are you?
Good,
what's up, man. Thanks for joining our show today. We appreciate
you doing this.
Can you hear?
I can hear you. Yes, we can.
Yep.
Can you hear us?
The audio is a little screwy.
Oh.
The audio is a little screwy.
Well, let's hope that it doesn't.
Are we back?
Yes, we are.
Me, guys.
We are back.
We're back. You're frozen. No, you're not.
No.
Are you talking?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, here we go. All right, we're ready. A smooth start.
As long as you can hear us, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, you can.
Okay.
You can hear us.
I can hear you. There's a tremendous lag here, though.
That's weird.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Huh. Well, if it becomes too much of a problem, we can always reboot.
Yeah.
And start over again.
Okay.
So as we want to thank you for being on the show, I've heard the name of the band for years. I've seen you guys posted for gigs and around town, but maybe you can give us a little bit about who you are and who the band, what brought you to the genre of music that you're doing, the whole nine. Let you lead off. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And I
Okay.
I know you're from Skinny Atlas.
I am. Something in the drinking water there. It's kind of the home of rock and roll. A little like maybe a rock and roll lymphoma. But yeah, well, number one, I'm kind of the Shuffling Hungarians was really kind of like almost as far as my local career.
I think he froze again.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking we reboot.
Reboot?
We might have to.
Yeah.
Save that beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Okay, here we go. We're back.
There you go.
We're back.
Yeah. Can you?
All right. Okay. So a little history. My personal history is kind of lengthy because I'm old as dirt. And the Shuffling Hungarians was really like the final dish that I cooked up of a lifetime of learning how to cook a dish. So I grew up in Skinny Atlas, as you mentioned, and when I was 5 years old, I used to go up to the top of the street and watch the Ridgewoods play in a garage, which were the Dean brothers and Joe Whiting.
Yeah, I know them both because
that was back in like 1965, 66. So I've been around rock and roll and my whole life, and I grew up wanting to be those guys, basically.
Yeah.
So I was mentored by. I used to clean a bar when I was a tweenager. I used to clean a bar in Skinny Atlas called Under the Stone.
Yep.
And they had live music every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night. Tuesday night was crack night, and I was soon found myself under the wing of Larry Arlotta when I was like 12, 13 years old, and Cliff Spencer and Bob Halligan from Steak Night that became Pictures. They were every Thursday, and these guys would let me jam with them when they rehearsed during the day, or they'd let me jam with them at shows. And this is how I cut my teeth. And I don't know, is this interesting to you at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But then I started to, then of course I quit high school to be in rock bands in my senior year in high school. And back then the drinking age was 18. Throughway bands were the thing, bands with trucks and light rigs and PAs and road crews and spotlight operators, and we all went up and down the throughway, and Dave Resnick made all the money and everybody else was broke,
Yeah.
That thing. And and so I did that for a while, and I was in a band called Kindergarten, which was like a kind of like a glam rock cover band, and then I joined The Works, which was kind of in Syracuse, was the do-it-yourself DIY original music movement.
Right.
Where people started to make their own records instead of being reliant on, playing classic rock top 40. Wearing spandex pants thing was a different thing.
Right.
And The Works is very successful for that thing, for doing pretty much 100% original material and touring, all over the East Coast as an original band. And of course, the leader of that band was Ed Hamill of Hamill on Trial, and he's still doing it, which is, God bless him for that. And and that's who I really learned from. Everything is like a process of, just kind of like being in the right place at the right time and learning.
Sure. Yeah.
And so after The Works, I did a couple of commercial band things, so I knew what that was about, and quickly realized I didn't like it a whole lot. And then I hooked up with the Masters of Reality. I replaced Mr. Owl when they started doing all their showcases for their original deal, or when they were, trying to get their original deal.
Mm-hmm.
And And the minute that Rick Rubin signed them, he fired me.
Oh, jeez. It was so bad, he said.
We have to wait because George he knocked him. He's
himself
still
over.
on though, so he just has to turn his camera and his mic back on.
Yeah, he's
still on. There you go.
Yeah, I don't actually have a stand here. There we go. Okay. So anyway, yes, I fired from the Masters of Reality. So here I am. I had worked my whole life toward getting a record deal, and then right at the point where I was going to be in a band with a real record deal with a real producer, that would be Rick Rubin, he fired my ass because he hated keyboards. That was what I was told. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Who knows?
Yeah, Rick Rubin.
And then when that band imploded, that band blew up. Tim Harrington called me up and said, "Hey, I've got a spin-off project called The Bogeymen. Do you want to do it?" Which was kind of ballsy of him, since he allowed me to get fired. Didn't exactly stand up for me back then, but I was young and dumb and full of cum, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go,
right,
be in a band." Of course, Tim Harrington, to this day, I will still tell people, is probably the most talented musician in Syracuse that nobody knows anything about anymore. But he's still the real deal. I've been around the horn a lot now, and Harrington. So it was made sense to swallow my pride and be in his band, which I did.
Right.
And that band had a deal on Delicious Vinyl, and so you got to do the things that people in Syracuse don't get to do normally, like be on Headbangers Ball and be on MTV and have a real record that's distributed by a real record label, and and all the label shenanigans that go along with that.
Sure.
And that band really was a great band, but it didn't really, didn't have enough funding behind it to do an international thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stories behind it. We could do a whole podcast on the Boogeymen, believe me. But after that, I'm turning 30 years old now. I realize I'm not going to be a rock star anymore. You kind of come to that realization that you're about to age out, at least in that first step.
Right.
And along the line, so I had my advance that I'd saved a little bit of that I could live off of, and I said, okay, well, and I had the opportunity to have really studied an entry-level record deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a point to really study an entry-level record deal now that I had access to that. And I realized that I don't want to ever have a fucking record deal ever. At that point in time, I was like, fuck that. I can do what they do. I can do it better. I can be in more control. And and instead of selling 1 million units, I can make the same amount of money if I sell 10,000 units.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, this is when people bought CDs.
Right.
So I said, fuck it. I put a little game plan, a 5-year plan in my head that I'm going to start a band. I'm going to play the music that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to release it, and I'm going to sell it myself, and I'm going to be in control of my career.
That's cool.
And that was really the start of the Shuffling Hungarians.
Now, isn't there a story behind that?
It was really the culminating.
There's a story behind this.
Go ahead.
There's a story behind the whole
Shuffling
Hungarians and how you came about. And I read an article from years
I wanted to take.
I'm glad you took us down that road because I definitely heard of the works. I mean, I grew up at the Lost Horizon, basically cut my teeth at the Lost. Started as a musician at the Lost, knowing all the stuff that Dave Resnick brought around. I grew up around the music. My uncle played with a band called Ivory with Joey DeFeo and those guys, and they were part of the Resnick crew.
Joey really well.
Yeah. So my uncle's Joe DiUlio, who's was the singer from the group, and he was part of Resnick's chorale of throwaway bands, so they were up and down playing 5 nights a week sometimes.
Galaxy of Stars.
Yeah. Nobody made as much money as DR.
The bands that were really like in the late 70s and early 80s that were really like huge on the Thruway. I mean, they were all cover bands, but they were great. They were production bands. They were 805.
Yeah.
New York Flyer. Alex Star,
Animation Atlas.
These guys made a lot. I mean, you could make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
The clubs before the drinking age went up. The clubs, Allen's in Scotia, it would hold 2,500 people. They'd sell it out on a Wednesday night.
Right.
$5 a head. You guys do the math. I mean, you can make a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Or at least you could create a lot of cash flow. Mm-hmm. And but that once the drinking age went up and once people that whole business sort of went away, dried up because people couldn't drink anymore. Irresponsible teenagers couldn't drink anymore.
Right. Cops didn't give you rides home if they knew you. They gave you tickets.
Right. So I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing about the playing music is that if every step that I had in that decade of the 80s, let's say, it was a chance to learn business,
right.
On a hand, because you had to pay the lease on the PA, you had to pay the lease on the lighting company, you had to pay the lease on the truck. And at some point after you get done, doing as many drugs as you possibly can and drinking as much booze as you possibly can and chasing as much tail as you possibly can and consume, you realize like, oh, the only people that are making money here are the people that own the PA companies that you're leasing the PA from and the trucking companies that you're leasing the truck from.
Yep. Right.
And the bars that you're selling beer for.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you work for.
Right.
And so, by the time I got to be 30, I realized like, well, you know what? I mean, some of the harsh realities of being a musician in Syracuse is that, you're in the beer selling business. Get over it. You're going to be selling beer for people until you own your own restaurant and have your own catering license and put on your own events and pay for your own insurance and do that shit. But, what I really wanted to do was, be somewhat in a business capacity, independent, and also in an artistic capacity, be independent.
Right.
And be able to actually make art. You got, you make concessions all along. You make compromises all the way along. The Shuffling Hungarians was never my perfect project because I had to play in Syracuse and I had to keep a band together.
Right.
Which means you got to make money, which means you got to play Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself every once in a while.
Right. Do you find that
so that's it.
With the way things are nowadays, with modern technology, with the internet, with things like Spotify and being able to put your own music up online and getting your own publicity, do you think it's easier to promote and get gigs going on your own now, or do you still miss the days where the New Times and trade rags were the Bible and getting the people to come out that way and the sense of mystery of what you were doing rather than having everything
I've
out
tried
there?
to although the delivery systems may change, the core concepts remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that, it was funny. I was in Eastwood the other day, crunch for a sandwich at my boy Steve's place at Chadwick's. And I was with my girlfriend and we were looking at a telephone pole, which was totally still scarred with a sheet of metal staples.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like just, eye level to foot level, just metal staples. Like they'd never bothered to take them out of the pole. And I was like, this is how we promoted back then.
Yep.
She goes, what's this? I go, it's staples. And this is how we did it. We hit the streets. It was street level, and you did it. And even in the internet age, like I don't know, like in the early 2000s with Reverb Nation, and they were talking about. It's always the same. It's just the way that you deliver it is different. But the core concept is that you have to have something that people dig, people want to hear.
Right.
And the only way that you're going to know that, well, honestly, you're never going to know that. If you're a real artist, you're never going to know before you make something whether people are going to dig it or not. If you're thinking about like, oh, people really like this because we're going to sound just like Guns N' Roses, you're already dead.
Right.
Yeah.
You're dead.
Yeah.
All right. So because Guns N' Roses didn't do that, they got there and they said, we're going to put the greatest fucking band together with the greatest songs we possibly can. And then they left it at that. And then they became Guns N' Roses.
Right.
Because they, understood that you got to be an artist first. So when you talk about Syracuse, Syracuse is a weird little place. I mean, I've lived in a lot of places, and Syracuse is definitely unique. It has a lot of positive aspects, and it has a lot of negative aspects.
Right.
And one of the negative aspects is that it doesn't really support, and it never really did. I shouldn't. Never is too strong a word. It's really hard for Syracuse and the people that live in Syracuse to support a legitimate music business that is centered around the creation of actual art.
Right.
Bands that go out and write their material and record their material and try to get publishing deals and try to get record deals. It's incredibly hard to do it from Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, because there's like maybe 500 people in Syracuse that support that. And the rest of the music fans in Syracuse know good music, they know good players, but they don't necessarily support that thing. They go to Sharky's, right, on bike night, and they, go see a tribute band, and 3,000 people show up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I buy into some of that. Yep.
Yeah. And so, but it's funny, we're talking about this because that's what the way bands were.
Right.
Syracuse has always been the best city in this upstate New York that can do that. They do that, and they do it better than anybody.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, I draw a direct line between those really successful bands, and they are successful. It's a great business model. They make a lot of money. They have to be disciplined to do what they do. I'm not putting them down.
Right.
But if you wanted to be a songwriter or be an all original band, that's fucking really hard in Syracuse, New York.
Yes, it is.
Just is.
I think
go ahead.
I think what we've talked about on the show back in the past here is that we have watched the folks that are coming out. It's like anything. If there's a need and there's a demand, then you find somebody that's going to give the demand. And if back in the mid 80s, if you were in a cover band, you were just like you poser douche. Why are you playing all these fucking covers? We're all here every night of the week. You can see original music at the Lost or a couple places around town.
Right.
Then we saw Then we saw the burn down of Albinos in the late 80s, and so many original music bands lost everything. Myself included, lost a lot of gear. So you're left with whatever was left, and a lot of what was left was cover bands.
Yeah.
Because I never really thought about it like that. I never really thought about that, but the Albinos thing.
Well, you figure at Albinos, you had Animation had a room, you had Atlas had a room, and 805, and guys like Maryland's Chambers and Below Zero, and Maryland's Chambers.
I lost a lot of shit in Albinos.
Yeah, everybody lost. So there was a lot of original musicians, and those are the guys that were they were making the money because that's what the demand was. Yep. They could afford albinos. They didn't have to do it out of their parents' garage or their drummers.
I was there. I would kind of beg to differ with you. The bands that were playing original music, like the Ohms or the Dead Ducks or 145 or Screen Test or Flash Cubes or the Works or those bands, they weren't making any money. They were bottom feeders. They were always like sucking on the crumbs, but there was a scene enough to support it. But man, we weren't making any money. I was living on $5 a day. The bands that were making money were the cover bands. They were making money.
Okay.
Doc 805 was making money.
Oh, 805 was crushing it
in comparison.
Yeah. But I think
those guys were making money. And that's only one segment of that scene. The other segment of that scene was the commercial segment of the scene. The guys that were playing weddings, the guys that were playing at Sue Lin,
right?
All those guys, that were shooting off and forming Atlas and doing those things. That was a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
that was a thing. But I don't know. It was like weird when I was a kid. And you could go into Morris's Bar and Grill, or not even before that. When I was a kid, and you could go see Juke and Bone in the Skinny Alice skating rink, and they had a deal on RCA Records. They were a real band that was making it, that was keeping themselves afloat, doing the circuit in New York State. But they were a real band with a real record deal.
Yeah.
And you could buy the record in a record store, and you could take that record home, and it sounded like a real record, which is kind of like was hard to do back then.
Right.
And or you could buy the Dean Brothers, or you could turn on WOLF, and you could hear the Dean Brothers on the radio. And these were guys that lived half a block up the street from me.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was something that was different. And I think that I've got a sort of what the right way to verbalize it. I got a skewed way of looking how to survive in the music industry in Syracuse. It was skewed because it wasn't really how everybody was doing it. I was just around it more. I was watching Crack rehearse, and they were making records.
Right.
The whole thing was like play clubs, make money, but you go to New York and play at Tramps and Showcase and make records. Mm-hmm. That was what everybody did. Same thing with, Bob Halligan and all of those bands in my youth. It was like up through the Masters of Reality. Masters of Reality totally changed the business model.
Oh my God, yes.
They played nothing. They were the masters. Yeah. They were the masters. They didn't play cover material.
Right.
They played the masters. They played 4 times a year at the Lost Horizon. That's it.
Right.
Or maybe one time at the Landmark for Halloween.
Exactly.
They weren't living off of their music or trying to make a living off their music. They put that on the table. They all had straight jobs. They played 4 times a year. But all they did was record, get management, showcase in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you did.
Right.
If you wanted to have the next level career. I believe that's what Brand New Sin did.
Oh yeah. Well, I think what's funny is
it did the same thing.
The same model. I mean, but if you take and you look at, even though they followed the right business model, the music that the Masters and that you were part of, that music was fucking timeless. That was just good, great.
That's Tim Harrington.
That's great.
That's fucking
music.
Tim Harrington.
Yeah.
That's why I keep trying to. I don't understand like all these like hard edge bands in Syracuse and heavy metal bands in Syracuse. Why the fuck haven't they fucking hired him to produce their record?
Right.
I don't get it.
Right. And
I never got it.
And you got to.
He wasn't interested in doing it.
You got to give credit to Chris too. Chris Goss's voice had such a unique flavor to it that it was not duplicated. And to this day, if you hear 3 seconds of him singing, it's him. I mean, it's,
Yeah. Oh no, he's a tremendous singer.
You know, but
you know, again, I was there. I was there for the architecture. Here's what I would say about Goss. You know, the Goss Harrington argument. The guy that was writing the hooks was Tim Harrington.
right.
You know, I got to see him do it, and when I listened to the Blue Garden, yeah, the combination of the two is actually that whole band. The combination of Vinny Ludovico, Mr. Owl, Tim.
Yep.
Goss, Chris Goss, and Gooch, that combination of players and how they put all that stuff together, the Blue Garden is still one of my favorite records to listen to. But when I got to work with Tim Harrington after that and got to see the methods, again, you're going to school. You want inside shit? Here's some inside shit. When I started to see how those things were constructed, it's all Timmy.
Right.
Yeah.
He wrote every fucking note of those records. And I mean every note.
That's cool.
Every note. Every drum hit. Every snare hit. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Timmy's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
And dude, I have nothing to gain to say about that. I haven't talked to him in, 20 years. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that very rarely, I've met a few people like that in my career. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not. People say I am. I just had good teachers, but
yeah,
Timmy was the only guy in Syracuse I'd met that was of that caliber. When I moved to New Orleans, I met a few too,
mm-hmm.
and who are just savant geniuses.
Right.
Or not even savant geniuses, or just like, there's levels of talent.
Yeah.
And Timmy was sucking some real rarefied air.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'll say that. Anyway, but that being said, after the Masters, and then of course, like, if you wanted to pursue those types of things, right? The Masters was a good lesson for Brand New Sin, let's say. But for me, I was of the age in the early 90s where I was looking actually more toward Ani DeFranco and saying, she had just started Righteous Babe Records out of Buffalo and basically was doing this to the record labels. I'm doing this on my own. Fuck you.
Right.
And that's kind of what I decided to do. And I built it around the art that I was interested in making, which was I was studying New Orleans music and New Orleans piano styles. And, that's what I was into.
Yeah.
And I said, I made a decision that, and it was all sort of organic. I'd like to say that it was all preordained and, and I figured everything out in advance. You're always flying by the seat of your pants
mm-hmm.
and improvising.
Right.
So, the Shuffling Hungarians really came about. I was playing with Gary Frenay in a wedding band and Artie Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
They were approached by Greg Spencer at Blue Wave Records Gary was to do a Christmas song for a Christmas compilation record. And I'm trying to think of the chronology there. That was happening. And so we did this song called Santa Man. And it was like kind of a 2-beat Huey Piano Smith and the Clowns kind of feel. I don't know if Gary intentionally did it that way. He knew I was studying that kind of music,
mm-hmm.
So he kind of like wrote the song to feature my piano abilities. At the same time, Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob,
Yep,
had contacted Gary initially and said, I want to come into town and I want to do a one-off band and do really stupid, novelty R&B songs. And I want you to put a band together. So Gary put a band together. It was me and I'm trying to think, it was me and Artie and Kathy Limana, I think,
mm-hmm.
on drums, and we got Frankie Grosso. I got Frankie Grosso to play sax, and Tom called that the push balls. So that was going on at the same time.
Right.
And then and we did this one show at Daly's, and it was like this drunken riot. It was fucking great. And a couple of years later, fast forward a couple of years later, I'm now playing in the wedding band with Gary. I'm recently divorced. I'm suicidal. I'm living in a shitty fucking apartment. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And I'm driving a $500 Ford LTD that every time I had to start it, I had to get under it and hit the starter with a rock. Times, you make your bed. I mean, to live for art, right?
Yeah, right.
I could have made a lot different choices and been a lot more comfortable. I did. Anyway, Tom calls me and he says, I want you to put together another push balls. And I say, okay, under one condition. And he said, what? And I said, I get to buy the groceries this time. Meaning I get to pick the guys and gals.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And he said, okay, because I immediately recognized that he's my carrot that I'm going to put on the end of the stick. And I'm going to put together a fucking amazing band. That was the Shuffling Hungarians. And that part was premeditated and absolutely manipulated by me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
I knew that if I could put the right band together, using Tom as the carrot,
right,
that that it's going to be a great band. And so we learned all this crunchy material, and I went out and I got the best band in Syracuse to do this one-off gig. So I got Mark Tifo and Paul Aron from Built for Comfort and the King Snakes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
As the rhythm section, and the three of us got together every day and rehearsed. Nobody rehearses every day for a one-off, and we just realized we wanted to be really great for some strange, because I appeal to people that want to be great. That's the other thing about Syracuse. Hard to find people that actually want to be great and make the sacrifices to be great. Mark and Paul Aron were two of those guys. King Snakes sold a lot of records in the mid-'80s of their own material, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it was the three of us just banging away, and then I put a horn section together with Frank Grosso and Paul Serra, the great Paul Serra, and actually Tim Harrington played guitar in that version of the Push Balls. We did the gig with Tom at Stylene, sold out, was great, and at the end of it, we had invested so much work in it, and here was my little manipulative move. I'll admit now. Sorry, guys. And I said, because I never fronted a band before. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, Jesus, we fucking did all this work. Let's just continue to go out and I'll sing. And they were like, well, okay, we'll try it. And we played after every party in the plaza at Stylene's for that summer and bombed. I sucked. I was the worst fucking front man. Bombed. Awful. But God bless them. They said, well, as long as it doesn't interfere with our real schedule, we'll still do gigs with you.
Right.
So I booked a steady at the Dinosaur Barbecue every Wednesday. And, because those guys were on the road Thursday through Monday.
Right.
And, but, they liked the work. So played at the Dinosaur, and that was my cavern club. That's where I learned how to bang on the Shuffling Hungarians and write for a horn section and write original material for that template. And so while all that was happening, the Santa Man thing was happening. Mm-hmm. And we recorded it, and I went to Gary and I said, hey, if we put some horns and some background singers and some percussion on this could sound just like a Huey Piano Smith record. And he went to Greg and asked Greg if I could continue to work on the arrangement and basically the production of this song. And Greg said, no, fuck you. Until Jerry worked them. Jerry, honestly, Gary was the midwife of the Shuffling Hungarians. He worked on him, and I think the final deal we made was that I would pay for the studio time and I would pay for all the musicians.
Wow!
So that Greg could have this record, and I did, and that's how I met the Georgiettes. Paulie found Angie, Jackie, and Gail for me, and that was really the shuffle. Once the Shuffling Hungarians, once I thought it could be a recording band, then that's when it became a thing.
Right.
And we decided to make a record, and we still played the Dinosaur. And then the minute we made the record, and the minute we released that record, we moved it to Stylene's. And we can talk about the reasons why, but basically because if you are going to spend all of your money promoting your band, you better be playing at a place that charges a cover charge.
Right.
And you can, harvest the fruits of your labors.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if you leave it to the venue, they aren't going to represent you or, buff you publicly as much as you will yourself.
Correct. And it's still
so everything, everything was
still that way today. It really is that way today. I mean, we just witnessed it.
Yeah, we did.
Sharky's is a great venue. We have nothing bad to say about Sharky's, never will, because they're also a sponsor of ours.
Yeah.
But I will say that the promoting of any show typically, really boils down to the artist still to this day. I mean, are we into parking lots like Nick Fuoco used to be years ago, handing out flyers? No, maybe we should be. Maybe we should go old school, handing out, hey, you coming to my show? Hey,
Yeah.
But that's how you got it done.
Yep.
You physically had to go touch the people.
Yeah, but the thing, like you just played Sharky's this weekend, right?
Right.
The difference between playing Sharky's and a venue is that Sharky's charges a cover charge, and those of you that don't know how this works. After a certain amount of money comes through the door, pays for expenses.
Right.
You then get a percentage of the door.
Right.
So you have an incentive as an artist. Ben had an incentive as an artist to play at Sharky's as opposed to playing. They don't have live music anymore. The Dinosaur Barbecue.
Right.
Yeah.
You could play the Dinosaur Barbecue. It would look like a packed house. It would be fun. You'd be creating work. There's value in that. And I'm not saying that there isn't. But at the end of the day, if he went out and bought $1,000 worth of Facebook ads, he's taking a bath.
Right.
And you can only do that so much.
Correct.
In business. You have to, eventually get a return on your investment. And so, that was my relationship with the Dinosaur Barbecue. I was investing in a band. Making records even back then wasn't cheap.
No.
And
God, no.
the band wasn't paying for them. I was.
Right.
And so, even to keep a band together. I mean, I played at the Dinosaur Barbecue every Wednesday for 2.5 years. I never paid myself.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
It used to piss Mark and Paul off. They would go like, at least take $10.
Right.
I go, no, we got to hire, I would drive them nuts because we got to hire this extra sax player. What? No, we gotta buy a PA.
Right.
Well, I'm not gonna help you buy a PA. Right. So, but I gotta have a band. The whole idea is like keep the band together. You pay for that as a band leader.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things I learned in the Shuffling Hungarians too. It's like, you pay to keep the band together.
Right.
You invest in yourself, but eventually you got to make that investment back.
Yep.
And I knew I was going to make it back once I got my record label up and running.
Right.
That's how, I believed in it. No one else believed it.
Do you think...
you want to hear a funny behind the scenes story?
Sure.
Here's one quick one. And then, all right. So everything is over. I leave for New Orleans. I come back. I retire. And I get the Hall of Fame Sammy Award, which I call we're putting you out to pasture because, we don't want you to suck any oxygen around here. So we're putting you out to pasture award, and which is great. It's a great honor to be in the Hall of Fame, but also it's kind of like a benchmark of where you are in your career or where you're not. Mm-hmm. And so I do go to the dinner. They have the induction dinner at upstairs at the Dinosaur, and Dave Resnick pulls me aside, and he says, I want to tell you something. I go, what? He goes, the biggest professional mistake I ever made in my life, and I had totally forgotten about this. But he says, the biggest mistake I ever made was when you came to me and with the idea of the Shuffling Hungarians and what it was going to be and the business model and everything, because I had all that mapped out.
Right.
It was right. It was integral that the record label was entwined with the act instead of being two separate entities.
Right.
Yeah.
That it was a two-headed monster. And so I went to Resnick with this thing, and I said, this thing is going to make more money than you've ever seen. And he goes, and he laughed me out of the office. He literally was laughing so hard, he was crying. And he pointed to the door and he told me to get the fuck out of the office, you fucking crazy motherfucker. Right? And I repressed it, because when he came to me at that Sammy's award show, I was like laughing, and he said it was the biggest mistake I ever made. And I said, well, hindsight's always 20 days. No, I don't hold it against you.
Right.
But it made me remember how I felt like back then. And back then was like, all you fucking assholes, I'm gonna show you how this is done. There was a lot of spite. There's a lot of spite involved in the Shuffling Hungarians.
Right.
Of just like, having to prove it to people that it could be done, because it had never been done before. Dude, you walk into a club in downtown Syracuse on a Saturday night, and there's 1,000 people in it, and you paid $5 to see it, and there's a 15-piece band up there that played like that band. How many people have done that? And then sold, and while that's happening, they sold 300 records at $20 a shot.
Right.
On a Saturday night.
Right.
No one's done it.
Right.
I guarantee you the Shuffling Hungarians have sold more records than any band in Syracuse ever.
We'll have to look that up.
I know this shit.
Now, you won more than one Sammy.
I guarantee
you've won like 4 or 5 Sammys, haven't you?
I think we're at either 9 or 10.
Okay.
So, all right.
At this point, why you want? I don't know. Here, hang on. I know that a couple. I know one is at Mark Tifo's and one is at Bob Aquavivas. So, can you see them? Can you see the garden of Sammy's here?
Yep. Okay.
Nice.
Very cool.
Looks like Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's a Stonehenge for gnomes. Yeah.
Do you feel that the focus is really changing now from we're putting all this together to sell albums to we're putting this together to put asses in the seats again? Because music's being downloaded all over the place, almost free now. So I'm watching guys like that we've had on the show, Jason Charles Miller, Ben Morrow, Max McKee,
hell, even Joe Altier.
Joe Altier. Well, everybody's kind of focusing on getting asses in the seats more than even the album sales, because there's really not that the music is more making money on either merch.
There's no incentive to there's no incentive to be an original musician, and now it's national. It's not just. There's really no incentive.
Right. To
get into that tier now is like nigh to impossible. And even if you look at people that are in that tier, look at the strategies that they're deploying. Tedeschi Trucks plays Layla all 4 sides in its entirety. That's a sales hook.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what's the difference between that and, Radio Floyd? There's
right,
not much.
Right.
You know, and these are like, you know, bands that are being represented by CAA and, you know, and our Live Nation bands and playing Live Nation sheds, you know, doing the real things, supposedly.
Right.
But they're not, you know. I mean, you know, look, in the 80s, yes, record labels and A&R people, I mean, you know, even the term A&R is kind of stupid now.
Right.
But, you know, A&R people would say, you know, for your first single, do a cover that has, you know, because it's going to be easier to break through because people have heard the song before.
Right.
So, you know, if Tiffany does Crimson and Clover, let's say, you know, or you know, pick something from the past that, you know, little kids will dig and that parents will be able to identify.
Right.
That's always been a strategy in the traditional music industry. But now it's the whole thing. Yeah. And you can't, you know, I don't, like I said, I'm not passing judgment on any of this shit because everybody's scrambling.
Right.
Right? Everybody's scrambling to a certain extent because of the fact that people don't buy music and that you can't make money off of writing music.
Right.
As much as you used to be able to. You just can't. I mean, you know, you brought up two guys. You know, we can talk about them if you want. They're both friends of mine, but you know, Max McKee is slick. Because he saw 10 years ago, and his partner, you know, saw the only way that I can make music as a creative musician is to write music for licensing.
Exactly.
That's what he's doing.
Oh, he's crushing it.
And right, and he's crushing it. It's like he saw it, he saw where to move, and you know, and of course Matt Grayson is. Both those guys are so talented.
Oh my God, yes.
You know,
yeah,
and more power to them.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't about I want to be known as an artist. You know, writing songs.
Mm-hmm.
They jettisoned that because there's no value in it.
Right.
They saw where the value was. They met me. Smart guy. And
yeah.
My favorite bass player.
Love
right.
That guy.
You know what puts the.
So if you're watching, Maxie, don't forget who loves you, Maxie.
We all do.
We all do.
Because what I was about to say.
Joe is fucking brilliant.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yeah, no, well, first of all,
you know,
as
Joe
far as
is brilliant, you know, that whole, you know, but, you know, just recently, though, that whole thing of him playing, you know, down-tempo versions of heavy metal songs, turning them into piano ballads, and then piggybacking them on the audiences of the actual artists.
Yeah.
It's fucking genius.
Yeah, it is genius.
Yeah.
It's fucking genius. And, you know, and you know, is he breaking through as a traditional artist would break through that had the support of a label that was developing an artist? No, he's doing it on his own. He figured out a way to do it. And now, after doing that for a year, he's releasing his own single.
Right.
Yes.
Now, he's released other singles before, but
sure.
Now he's got some muscle behind it.
Right.
And he built that muscle all himself. I love you, Joe. You are so fucking smart.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Again, Joe, if you're watching, you know, and you know, so if I was going to give any advice to a musician in Syracuse or anywhere that's listening, is, you know, look around you what your peers are doing, and don't compete over the ever shrinking slice of Syracuse pie.
Right.
Be inspired by the people that are doing shit. When I was a kid, I was inspired by Mark Royal. I was inspired by Joe White. Mm-hmm. I was inspired by Bob Halligan. I was inspired by these people that were in the industry and doing amazing things.
Right.
I was inspired by people around me, like, that were a few tiers above me, but like people like Ani DeFranco, mm-hmm. who, you know, started Righteous Babe Records. And I said, all right, I'm going to start Queen Bee Brand Records. She can do it. I can do it. It can't be that hard. Little did I know. But yeah, be inspired by people. Don't compete with people. Don't drag your peers down.
Right.
There's a big crab in the bucket, Syracuse thing. You know, anybody that aspires needs to be pulled back down in the bucket.
Yeah.
And I would say that that's Syracuse's biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Is that when you see people aspiring, lift them up because they'll lift you out of the bucket.
Yeah. Don't.
But
I find a lot of
town,
people doing a lot of tearing down rather than a lot of building up, and I agree with that. But that's what George. That's
a forever thing.
That's what this show is all about, George. That's why we did this, was to kind of bring to light the musicians that are doing things either a little differently or just bringing to light some guys. I mean, you mentioned Bob Halligan like 4 or 5 times. Bob's going to be on the show in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. We've got him booked for the middle of November. Mm-hmm. So we can't wait to have Bob, because there's a story there that people need to hear that don't realize the stuff that he's written that people don't even realize he did write. You know,
yeah, man. You know, we got some heavy hitters around.
We do.
Yep.
And the people that are heavy hitters, for some reason, you know, dude. I was sitting in a meeting at Subcat for a nonprofit, and it was headed. I'm not going to say who it was headed by, but it was a nonprofit that does altruistic things in the community, and there were certain people involved, and there was this sort of get all these Syracuse musician luminaries together, and this guy that was a radio guy was pitching this idea. Let's do a "We Are the World" song. Original idea there, right? And for the whole place. Let's and everybody will sing. And then this guy got up and he started singing to the tune of "We Are the World" these lyrics for this idea, and it was like. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting in this meeting, and I'm like, I'm fucking Twilight Zone. I'm going like, I can't believe how, this is so fucking weird. It's like, and so not thing that I would want to be a part of. And crazy. It was crazy. It was so bad. And I turned around, actually Joe was sitting next to me. And I turned around and I looked at her. I looked at her and I go, can I talk? And he says, yeah, George, go ahead. Because he knew exactly what was about to happen. And I just said, I'm a little bit more gentle, but I am sort of plain spoken too. And I just said, look, you can't do that. That, it's been done.
Right.
He's singing it to the tune of "We Are the World." I said, however, there are songwriters in Syracuse that could write a song for you.
Right.
And he said, like who? Looking right at me. And, and I named him. And again, not that I think that I'm in the league of Gary Fernay, but, I've been known to write a song or two. But Gary Fernay, Karen Savoca, Pete Heisman, Bob Halligan, you tick them down. Maura Kennedy, there's, my brain isn't working quite well, but Mikey, lacrosse guy, Mikey, Jamie Noter Thomas.
Oh God, yeah.
There's tremendous songwriters that live here, and yet why those guys aren't busy? If I had a little band right now, and I was trying to be a recording band that, again, if I were me, which I think I am, yes. If you look at what I do when I make a record, one of the things I do is I reach out to the talented songwriters in Syracuse, New York, and I cover their material.
Right.
Because I'm not the greatest songwriter in the world, nor the most prolific. And I also know that a hit's a hit.
Right.
And I want to, where it comes from doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I got a really great about that. But, I try to, I had the Shuffling Hungarians at that point. By the time that first record came out, I had built a platform where people were looking at it.
Right.
And I wanted to be a crab that lifted my fellow crabs out of a bucket, perhaps, or at least had a claw in it, right? So I went to Gary and I said, Gary, this is the concept of the record, and these are the 8 songs that I wrote for the record, and here are the 2 covers that I picked for the record, and I'd like you to write a song for the record that, sort of dovetails with the narrative of what the concept of the record was. And he wrote me a song. Aaron wrote me a song. Tim Harrington wrote a song.
Right.
And I covered all 3 of the people on the first record. I cover local writers.
Right.
On my new record, I do a cover by Jonah Smith. Who was a piano student of mine. We lift each other up.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I can't stress that enough. And go ahead.
What I think
learn when to shut up.
No, what everything you're saying is dead spot on and interesting, and I think what I'm just trying to maybe reiterate what we've learned. I think when you have cities like Nashville, like New Orleans, saturated with great talent, they're not afraid to sit in a writer's powwow, bouncing things off each other, writing, collaborating, lifting each other up. And I think it's not as territorial. It's not as territorial. Right. And I think you probably you probably learned that with your time spent down in the Big Easy, being around different. And Sarah, I kind of knew it before I went down. Got to experience how real people, and when I mean real people, there's a difference how, like a peer in Syracuse would conduct themselves in a business in Syracuse than Alan Toussaint. Right. Or Stonewall. Or Dr. John. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still, you still got to predict your deal, right? And you gotta sort of be wary of, hey, in my case, I was the Yankee white invader. They were like, where the fuck did this guy come from? Sure. Yeah.
I really did. If you lived in New Orleans, it would look like I came out of nowhere. And which was hard to overcome for me. But I would say this, that fast forward to the future. Cyril Neville realizes that his imprimatur is going to help me. Mm-hmm. He's my friend. He has a lot of respect for me, and I have a lot of respect for him. Right. We've made music together. We've made records together. We've done shit together. And once you have that experience, and you're over all of the like, who the fuck is this guy thing. Right. And you actually work with one another and treat each other with the respect that you deserve. That he's not going to profit from liking my posts or sharing my videos that I make out of my account. Doesn't matter. Right. And it's not a threat to him either. Right. Once you are around people where their self-esteem issues are a problem, life is so much better. Yeah. Yep. How much did you do with the Neverly Brothers? That's the wisdom part of all of this. Mm-hmm. I was containing wisdom. Mm-hmm. My mantra dealing with people in this town now is, what I say to myself, because I see it all the time, is your self-esteem issues aren't my problem. Right. Your self-esteem issues are your right. If you don't know why you're sitting in my room, then you need to get out of the room. The fact that you got invited to the room is all you need to know. Mm-hmm. That was a lesson that I learned in New Orleans. I looked like I came out of nowhere. But once I figured out I was there because I was supposed to be there,
Right.
Yeah.
because someone was putting me there for a reason, you know, life gets a lot easier
Yeah. Yeah.
for me and the people that I work with.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I incredibly talented people in New York who can't get out of their own fucking way because they don't think that they deserve to be in the room,
Right.
or they're being a weasel and fucking up their opportunity.
I got to ask
Right?
you.
You know, when opportunity knocks, answer the door.
Right.
Me. All
Right.
All right.
Jeff.
Yes.
So you were asking about Neville Brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I saw that you did some stuff with the Neverly Brothers, and you know, I mean, through looking through history.
Neville's, not Neville.
Neville. Sorry.
Neville. Well, Neverly is Gary and Artie from the Flash Cubes. Neville Brothers is New Orleans. So,
okay, that's what I meant to say.
What happened is that, so when I was, okay, so things are cruising along in Syracuse. I'm running the label. There's about 28 people working for the label at its height, including band, of course. But I'm the primary source of income for about 28 people.
Right.
A lot of pressure.
Okay.
And honestly, it was like not pressure that I to have forever, starting to get to me. It had been 7 years of me, you know, running and gunning for 24 hours, and I was tired.
Sure.
And we were in the middle of the marketing. We were in the middle of the marketing swing for Live at Stylene's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing a lot of business overseas. I was selling a lot of records overseas, quite frankly. So I was up all the time. And we sold a lot of records.
Right.
Yeah.
Not ridiculous. No, it sold a lot of records to the point where people in the industry, and when I say the music industry, I mean like, you know, the old school music industry.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the music industry, but like, you know, the music industry, like the people that I loved and grew up with and respected, and I wanted their respect.
Mm-hmm.
They may have been like, you know, retiring out of the music industry, but these are the guys that I wanted to hang out in a room with, my heroes.
Right.
You know, I wanted to hang out with Ray Charles. That's who I was making records. I wasn't making records for people, you know, in the audience. I was making records so I could be in the room with Ray Charles.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Sure.
it does. Absolutely.
In other words, my competition, like when you're talking about competition or whatever, you know, I wasn't looking at, you know, Colin Aberdeen as my competition. I was looking at Ray Charles as my competition.
Right.
I wanted to smoke a cigarette with Bob Dylan. That's, you know, where I was setting my bar. So
that's a great bar to set,
know,
though.
it really is.
That's a great
Yeah,
bar.
it's a huge bar.
Well,
to set.
you know,
Ask.
I mean, honestly, I forgot how I'm paraphrasing myself, but in my blogs, I sign off like this. I end up in a back alley, you know, bloodied and beaten in a back alley behind Pluto. Police, you know, I shot for it. You know, and I didn't accept being mired in the mud of mediocrity of being earthborn, never having tried. Judge my successes by the epic nature of my failures, and believe me, when you guys, you know, were setting up the phone, I have seen great fits of just crashing and burning in epic way,
Right.
and but because I tried.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then, you know, you're all, you know, there's going to come a point where you're going to look in the mirror in your old age and you're going to go, if I had tried, what would have happened?
Right.
Would have things come? How would?
Yeah. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, are we back?
Oh, yep.
I think we're back.
We
Yeah.
are.
The video's
Okay.
not back, but the audio's back.
The audio's
All right.
back.
Okay.
Which is
So, we got video?
Yep,
Yep.
we got video. We're
Yep.
back.
Got the video?
We
Yep,
are back.
We're good.
All right. Okay. So anyway, so I had come to the attention of these guys finally, that I wanted come to the attention of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so here's the story. Here's how little Georgie goes to New Orleans. So we had just played at the Red in Rochester. The Dirty Dozen brass band had just sat in with, and these are my drinking days. So I'm drunk off my ass, and I, don't tell anybody. I drive home from Rochester. It's I get home at 6 a.m. I'm still drunk. I'm working all the time. I never see my girlfriend. It's Saturday morning, and my girlfriend decides that she wants to have sex with me in my absolute exhaustion. She climbs on top of me, and we are in flagrant echo, and the phone rings, and I'm in the middle of my marketing campaign all over the world, my radio marketing campaign for Live at Silence. I got to answer the phone.
Right.
Oh, boy.
And Stylene looks at me and she says, "You fuck that phone and I'll beat you over the fucking head until you're dead." I said, "I gotta get. I'm sorry." I pick up the phone, and there's a guy, old crusty guy, Long Island guy, at the end of the phone. "Ah, George, is this little Georgie?" I go, "Yeah." "This is Jerry Wexler." And I say, and I think it's somebody punking me. It's punking me.
Right.
7 a.m.
Sure.
And I go, "Yeah, if you're Jerry Wexler, then I'm on there again. Go fuck yourself." Click. Immediately rings back. And long story slightly shorter, it's actually him, and I verify it's him. And as a fact, I'm reading autobiography on my nightstand as I'm talking to Jerry Wexler.
Right.
With a girlfriend on top of me. This is my life. So of course she left, and I'm on this guy for hours, and we're talking about the Shuffling Hungarians and Shuffling music, and he studied both records. I put a lot of Easter eggs in all of my tunes that are specifically designed to speak to a guy like Jerry Wexler, and
Sure.
He was the first guy that actually heard him, and so I ended up being friends with him.
Oh, no kidding.
Call him every week, for a while there,
Right.
and he always maintained that he could never do anything for me in a professional capacity. "Kid, I can't do anything for you professional, but if you want to talk about music, talk about production, I'll talk all day long, but I can't do anything for you for, all the time." He keeps, because he's trying to keep me aligned. He's like, "Look, I'm not going to pull you out of the bucket. I can't. I may be an icon, but no one pays attention to me anymore because I'm old and in the way."
So I got to interrupt you for a second.
I understand.
I got to interrupt you. So for people who don't know who Jerry Wexler is, Jerry Wexler, coined the phrase rhythm and blues.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
And he was a producer for Ray Charles. Yeah.
Jerry Wexler was a partner. You're sounding like a banjo now. I'll tell you who Jerry Wexler was. He was a partner at Jack Records.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Along with Ed Erdogan in the Saudi area. So Jerry produced all of the Atlantic on Ray Charles.
Right.
Yes.
So I Got a Woman and all that stuff. What I Say, those are all Jerry Wexler produced those. And he was a staff producer and a partner in Atlantic at that point. And so he produced all of the Aretha Franklin records.
Right.
You seeing where I'm driving here?
Yeah.
He fucking invented R&B.
Right.
He actually invented the term. He used to work for Billboard back in the 40s, and he invented the term R&B.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was Jerry Wexler.
Right.
Yep.
So, I mean,
Led Zeppelin,
you know,
Bob
he's
Dylan.
like he's the
yeah.
face on Mount Rushmore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's the face on. Yes, he produced a record for Dylan later on and stuff. But you know, he's the face on Mount Rushmore.
Right.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Like the real guys that made rock and roll.
Yeah.
He's that guy. You know, there are others. You know, but anyway, so Wexler was there, and through my relationship with Wexler, he would always just say, you know, it's about the music only, just about the music. It's not about anything else. I can't help you.
Right.
So as my career progressed, and I ended up in New Orleans, and I ended up, you know, supposedly producing a record for the Wild Magnolias on Blue Note.
Nice. We're gonna lose him again.
Yep.
I'm feeling it's coming.
It's coming.
There it is.
Oh, wait.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, here we go. We're back. We're back. Okay, so I'm down in. I get a call, just kind of out of the blue, in Syracuse, saying we'd like you to produce this record for Blues for this Mardi Gras Indian tribe. You seem to have a feel for production, for large scale productions with, you know, Cecil Bass of thousands, and a feel for the music, New Orleans style R&B of a certain era.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd heard.
This is on again, off again, like
It
a
really
washing
is.
machine over here.
YouTube. when that cuts out, is it for YouTube?
Well, it cuts out, but we're talking through it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So anyway, so they asked me to go down to produce this record, cast of thousands, and Dr. John and Alan Toussaint, and Will Kayser, and Mara Wright, Neville Brothers, and Edel, you know, great studio musician in New Orleans at the time is going to be playing on this film.
Mm-hmm.
We want you, George Rossi, to produce this. Well, I thought it was on the basis of the fact that I had sold many of the Saints records. Well, I sold a lot of records.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, okay, you know, I'm the hot ticket. I'll go down for a month or two, come back and be little Georgie. It'll be like a little working vacation.
Sure.
So I went down there, and a couple things happened. One was it was not a working vacation. I ended up working so hard, and their work methods weren't like mine. You know, I'm a New Yorker. I like to that's not how they do things in New Orleans. They take their time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was down there, you know, strange land, trying to acclimate myself. But just to fast forward all this stuff. So I did get the opportunity to work with tremendous artists.
Right.
You know, I got to make a Alan Toussaint hit the talkback mic in the control room. Mr. Toussaint, you know that middle eight? I think you could play that a little funkier. That was a good moment.
There you go. Yeah.
But right, you know, and you know, have the opportunity to get the respect of these people wanted to be in a room with.
Right.
Now, I'm here to tell you that over 30 years, I've done a lot of forensic investigation on how I actually got that gig. And how I got that gig was Jerry Wexler got that gig for me.
Sure.
He just didn't want to tell me. But Jerry Wexler got that gig for me. And I got actual credible confirmation.
That's cool.
That he had taken, and this is the thing, he had taken, you know, when you want to talk about being from Syracuse, New York, Jerry Wexler took a record called Little Georgie and the Shuffling Hungarians live from Styline's Rhythm Palace in Syracuse, New York, on the cover, which was professional suicide for me.
Right.
And he gave it to everybody he knew. Everybody.
Oh.
I mean, everybody. One of the guys he gave it to was Tom Dowd. And Tom Dowd, again, was the engineer on all those Atlantic records and ended up being producer of Derek and the Dominoes and Allman Brothers. And Tom. And come to find out that Tom Dowd and Jerry Wexler went to Bruce Lowell, who was the president of Blue Note at the time, and said, "We want you to hire this kid.
That's cool.
He's an up and comer, and
cool.
you need
That's
to give
awesome.
him a job. And we know that job's coming up." And they got me that job. Now, this is in $1997, but that record, the budget for that record, was the biggest budget record that New Orleans had ever seen. So I am producing, and all these guys are looking at me, who fucking made you this boss, you white motherfucker, right? They're looking, and I'm going like, I don't know, I made good records, and so they hired me. I didn't know that, arms were getting twisted on my behalf, behind my back. I didn't know. But that's how that happened. Wexler was a champion. He was more than just a friend.
Yeah.
He, was trying to make a career for me.
Sure. It's funny. I think we usually ask the question, what's your biggest, that right there.
It's got to be it.
It's got to be it. I mean, that's got to be, that's a big, huge for anybody,
Would be for me.
Oh my God.
He was trying career for him.
Yeah. That's cool.
So that's how I ended up in New Orleans. And so when I talk to you about knowing why you're in the room and not letting your self-esteem issues get in your way,
right?
It was me in New Orleans.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing or why I was there.
Right. It's awesome.
Like how the fuck did I end up telling Dr. John how to play piano?
Right.
How did that happen? I didn't know. And I certainly wasn't doing it from a position of ultimate confidence.
Right.
Right? You learn to go. You learn along the way.
Right.
So, but that was, so I never went back to Syracuse. The plan was to never go back.
Sure.
It was maybe do a couple of shuffling gears every now and again. But
what do you?
And that didn't work out either because Hurricane.
Oh, Katrina. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
George, what do you got coming up
now?
Yeah.
Got anything to promote? Because I know usually we definitely have to
I don't know why this is doing this.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Me.
Shit happens. People listen as much as watch. So we definitely have to have you come back because you've got
a ton of stories that everybody wants to hear.
We're just scratching the surface on
I'm old. I got a shitload of stories.
I know. We need to have you come back.
A whole episode on my failures.
Okay. We'll do the
part 2.
We'll do the failures on part 2.
If I was this motherfucker story.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got multiples of them.
Right.
I've got multiples of them. So
cool.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
So what do you got coming up? Anything good?
Okay, repeat that, please. It sounded funky.
You have anything coming up? Anything new?
Do you want to promote?
Oh, okay. Do I have anything coming up? Not really. I
love it.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm in the middle of attempting to do something that's never been done before, which is true to form,
right?
Career-wise, or from Syracuse, and I built a small television production studio in my house.
Okay.
Audio production studio in my house. And I'm going to be continuing to write music and record music and release music in audio and visual form from the womb room of Hungary. So if I was going to, am I promoting anything? Yes.
Yeah.
Go to Facebook and follow the womb room of Hungary, or follow Little Georgie and the Shuffling Hungarians, or follow George Rossi. That's a good starting point.
Yep.
You can get to the website and Instagram and all the rest of that shit. But
right.
Yeah,
going to see new material. You're going to hear material. You're going to see little clips because we're trying to build an audience for this thing to the point where it makes financial sense to release things worldwide.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Basically what's going on. So I've assembled a crack team of Central York's finest musician.
Did you get a call?
As the current shuffling Hungarians.
Yeah, today.
Right.
That's going to be fluid because the shuffling Hungarians is really going to be kind of. It looks like it's going to be kind of like Steely Dan, where people are going to kind of like float in and out. There's not really going to be a band because, we're not on the road. We're not, going to Shifty's and making $100. No, there's no carrot.
Right.
The only carrot for this thing now, for me, again, where I'm it's all about, I hate to say it, it's all about what I can live. And so there's a lot of parameters on a music career because of the music business is today. But also on myself that I don't want to play Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself anymore. I don't want to be in a position of having to keep a band together and play music I don't want to play or play out more than I want to and be overexposed. I don't want to do that anymore.
Sure.
What I want to do is write and produce product.
Sure. Awesome.
Like beautiful art. I want to write beautiful songs and then I want to, manifest them in some kind of weird form for me, which is these videos, which they're not live videos, but they are at the heart. They're live recordings, but they're not. They're a little bit of hocus pocus. I'm learning new skills. The whole video thing is new to me, production wise.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
I like being in control of everything again, and so these things they're coming out great. But I think that it's hard for working musicians in Syracuse to really see what I'm doing. So people are going to float in and out of this project. I think is how it's looking.
Right.
But we have 9 finished songs right now. We're about to start another spate of these productions. They're like making little movies, so they take a lot of time, and of course I don't have a lot of money. That's part of the problem too. So I'm pitching, being part of the Hungarian tribe.
Right.
And if you want to help us make more shit, there's ways that you can help us make more shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Some cost no money at all. It's just you're on a share button.
Yeah.
And helping us to expand our audience and exposing people to, what the Shuffling Hungarians thing is, because it's a really fucking cool thing, or I wouldn't bother doing it.
Right.
I mean, that's how I believe in it.
Sure.
I got to find the people out there in the world that believe in it as much as I do.
Well, you can rest assured.
And if you don't,
you can rest assured that we will do everything we can to help promote what we call our alumni. Yes, for sure.
All right, man. I mean, because that's really it. Clips up, and I really just ask people at this stage in the game. I'm not asking them for fan funding or fan support. At some point, I'm going to need to have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because they believe in me making stuff of value.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's going to stand the test of time.
Right.
People ask me this a lot, like, and I don't want to name names, but, a studio owner in Syracuse is like, I don't understand why, your video, like that video got, 70,000 views. I don't understand why that happened. And they're saying it to me, to my face.
Right.
And I'm going like, well, because 70,000 people saw the value.
Sure.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like a boneheaded and slightly insulting question.
Sure.
Right.
Like, to me, if I was, what was it? The other day I was in a roller rink. I was in the roller rink on behind M Street. Behind the Catholic shop, there's a skate park. There's a roller rink, and I'm there. And they had a big cutout of Sidney Irving.
Okay.
So, do you know Sidney Irving?
Yep.
And he says, yeah, that's my stepdaughter and my daughter. Couple owns the rink. And I said to them, I said, I pay attention to her a lot.
Sure.
I really like what she's doing, and I like how she's doing, and her stuff sounds really good too. But I like how she's, conducting herself in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
right, and you as her parents, you tell her that someone said that, but to me, it's well, who the fuck are you?
Right.
And well, here's my resume. I was just like, well, just tell her that some weird gray-haired goofy guy,
some old guy thought
said that he thought she was
creeper.
all right. But yeah, we again, Syracuse just confuses me to no end, which is I think one of the reasons I love it. Is that is a little confusing, but there's one. Lots of people that are doing really cool shit.
Yep.
In Syracuse.
Well, we're looking.
I mean, like musically, I might not be, fully aligned. Boy, it sounds like a trumpet. You sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher right there. But there's lots of cool people. I would love to see this place. I would love to see this place recognized as a cultural center. I think it can do it. I've always thought that it could.
Yeah.
It just needs to get its shit together a little bit better.
Well, we're trying to do our job is to try to bring some of the stuff to the forefront. I mean, I know you've got, you mentioned Sydney. We're actually.
You do your job.
We're doing our job. We're
job.
We're trying to get Sydney on the show. Actually, I just
got her information
from Randy.
Randy and
and we've got Sheila Tucker.
Yeah,
it's going to be on on the show.
Cox.
Ashley Cox will be on the show. So a lot of people, some of the people you've lined yourself up with, are all going to be guests of the show. So all we can say is we want to have you back on.
Yes.
I think there's a lot more that we need to scratch. We just scratched the surface today.
We want an episode on your failures.
And dude, go to those Facebook sites and see these little video clips.
I am. I just
check them out.
I watched the stuff from the womb room of Hungary. I saw the Queen Bee band video that you put out just a couple days ago. Yeah. So I watched that. That was a great little video.
Awesome.
Just kind of gives.
I'm really, to me, like when you're talking about why I did this and where the future is going, for me, even to just release a 51-second clip.
Yep.
Which I released like 2.5 days ago,
yep.
And now close to 6,000 people have seen that clip.
Sure.
That's not 80 people in the club. That's 6,000 people. That's what the potential of internet.
Right.
That delivery system. If you to cut through the white noise. But if you can figure out a way to do that, like as Joe Altier has.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Then the potential for an audience is staggering.
Yeah.
And I know, I know that the Shuffling Hungarians still, even though I'm old, I don't make, modern music. I didn't make modern music 30 years ago. I was always trying to make, trying to make music that would stand the test of time.
Right.
I'll still spin a Sinatra record and go, with Count Basie and go, that's the fucking greatest thing I've ever heard. And it was made 60 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. You know,
Sure.
I'm just trying to make something of value. You know, not something that's, you know, sounds like a Britney Spears record.
Right.
Nobody wants that.
We can't wait to see how, just by you promoting this show,
Yeah.
we're going to get thousands of views of just this episode.
Just this one.
So that was our selfish moment.
Yes.
Wow.
Is to have somebody of your caliber on, and we appreciate you being here.
You know, look, you know, everybody's got an agenda,
Yeah.
but we lift each other up,
That's right.
Yes.
right? You know, like
right.
when you asked me to do it, it wasn't like, I don't. My agenda was only because I suck at podcasts. I got to get better at it, and I want to help. You know, that was my personal agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just want to get better at doing podcasts. It's
Well-
kind of hard when you gotta, you know, when your kidneys are bleeding. But you know,
Yeah, right.
I did pretty good.
That's
You
a
did
story
good.
for another
Consider
time.
You did good.
I'm in abject pain.
Yeah.
I
There
still
you go.
seem cheerful.
Well, when the pain relief
right,
wears
brother.
off,
Yeah, when the meds wear off, well,
yeah, that'll be a different story. But this has been an
Oh,
enjoyable
man.
experience.
Percocet, Oxy. Can this episode was brought to you by Percocet and OxyContin.
That's right.
Nice. There you
our,
go.
Our new 24-hour sponsor.
All right,
Yep.
we're gonna go.
That's
Are we
right.
signing off?
Listen, we appreciate
George,
you
thank you
being
so
on
much,
so
man.
much.
Peace.
Yeah.
peace, brother.
We are definitely gonna we will come back around and we will pick up another episode.
Yeah.
So to be continued.
Okay. All
We'll
right.
have to put it at the bottom.
It's
Yeah,
bottom,
and,
to be
and when
continued.
you edit this thing down, send me a link, okay?
Will do.
You'll get that before probably about an hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool.
All right, man. Sayonara.
Thank you
Peace
so
and
much,
love.
brother.
See you later.
All right,
Thanks.
man.
All right.
Peace.
Signing off.
There you go. There we go.
There he's, yeah, gone.
That was it.
Little Georgie.
Yeah, man. Just so many stories and so many
I
more
know.
we can expect and
We could have
excited
had-
about.
He
Excited-
could have gone till 10.
Oh God, yes. You kidding me?
And for those of you who are watching somewhere else, it's 10 p.m. We're talking.
Yes. Well, it's only 8 now, but yeah.
Well, they don't know that if they're
No, they
watching
don't.
somewhere else.
They don't- it's true.
Eastern Standard Time, kids.
Dude, and there's another one in the can.
There's another one in the can.
Wait a minute.
I heard that.
That's not. That didn't mean to come out.
I heard that. There's another one.
Oh God. In the
We
can.
should go.
We should go before I stick
should
my
go.
foot in my fucking mouth. I'm afraid to say fucking now, but it's worn itself out
Yeah,
on
it
this
has.
one. So anyways, hey, let's start the music.
Yeah, let's start the music once again. Thanks to George Rossi.
Yes. Thank you so much, George, for being on the show. Our sponsors, the great Hawk Medical Supply,
Sharky's Event Center.
DJ Life's the Son of a Beach,
Ah, Good Nature Brewery.
Uncle Jimmy's Local Live Munich. Thanks for videotaping us this weekend, Jimmy.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much. The Print Shop Underground.
Oh, for all our banner and t-shirts and all that
what
shit.
have you.
Snarky Productions
And Toffee Break Toffee. The
let's-
only toffee does not.
does not stick in your teeth. You've been listening to the good,
The band.
the ugly. I'm Big Papa.
I'm Jeff.
And we want to thank you for sticking around this long.
This long.
Peace. The fuck was that? Such a dick.
Recording stopped.
Is it though?